Hello and welcome to vlog number 52. It seems that there's all sorts of amazing milestones being achieved this last couple of weeks. First 1,000 subscribers, and now this is my first birthday as a channel, which I'm pretty pleased about. There's all sorts of stats I can give you, but I'm just going to give you two. This video is my 114th, and that involves over 3,000 clips, actually over 3,600 clips. Which is pretty cool, isn't it? I have saved them all, but I've not fully recovered everything from the major hard drive disaster I had, so I can't tell you how many megabytes it is, or gigabytes even, because it is gigabytes. But yes, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of content, and I hope that you're enjoying it, and I hope that you'll continue to enjoy it, and that you will stick with me, and maybe tell your friends, and let's get more people involved. And Louise is obviously very pleased as well, as you can tell. You can see the fire's lit. An element of my early videos was me sat by the fire, so I thought I'd echo that in this intro. Yeah, I'm not going to ramble on for any much more. I'm going to go back to the beginning of the week. It's been a crazily busy week. Work-wise, I've had 10-15 minutes a day tops in which I can do some hobbying, but I have got some stuff done. Today I spent a lot of time working on putting in a new network and a new printer, and I have printed out and bound my copy of Sabre and Blood, and I've read it through once and I am stoked. So yeah, this week I did manage to finish all of the painting for the miniatures. So yeah, it's that's going to be hitting your screens very shortly, as soon as I've received the board in the post. So that's taken a lot of my week getting the network done, but it's all finished now, so that's going to help, and I'll be able to print out loads more rule sets and get a load more stuff done because of it. So anyway, thanks for that, Thelma. Thanks for that, Lulu. Thanks for watching. I will jump back to earlier in the week, and I'll see you again at the end. I've been working quite hard over the last few days and weeks to clear this area outside room 13. That is the door for room 13 there, and the games room is behind this wall. The reason is that this is where I'm going to start my model railway, just outside here. I have an area between the doorway and the wall in the corner, and this door here, which is the one that goes into the games room, which I can put a shelf layout on. And while I'm still not 100% sure what exactly I'm going to do, I'm still kind of planning it. I have, since this became a possibility to put the model railway here, I have had the very strong feeling and idea that what I want is the railway out here to have a tunnel through the wall and into the games room, and the other side of this wall has long and always been planned to be where my model railway would be. This is a bonus, this is an extension. However, it also makes sense that this is the first place I start because it's small, gives me a little bit more scope to experiment and practice, and then once I've got this one right, I can then extend through into the games room and do the larger model there. So what I'm doing is I'm working at how I'm going to do the base, the track, base for the track even, and working out where that tunnel wants to go. Now you can see here, this is a storage unit which I've purchased from a local shop. One of the things I've really struggled with in this process, and this is something which has been ongoing for quite a little while now, is to get good, dry, solid wood. So in the UK and the US and the rest of Europe, you just go down to your local hardware store and they've got 2x4s or what have you, and it's just, it's fine, it's good to use. Over here, they don't do that. Well, it's certainly not in my region anyway. Finding good dry furniture quality wood is very, very hard. Now I can get 3 centimetre by 3 centimetre and 4x4, so about 1.5 by 1.5. But that's going to be really good and useful, and I've got a few bushels of that downstairs, a few whatsits of that, which I will be able to use in this construction. But to actually support the track, I don't really think that's going to be good enough. I had a couple of options. One of them was to do a real shelf layout, so get some of those shelf supports and build on top of that. that's something which may end up happening. The other option was to use furniture, as you can see here, and this is what I'm going to basically pursue as my first port of call, my first idea. This is a good height for a shelf layout, and it will also have the added bonus that I'll be able to store things underneath. Now I've got this unit, and then there's another 2 units of the same height but different widths and different styles, which I've got yet to make, because I'm not totally sure which ones I'll use, if maybe all of them, maybe not. But the idea would be that I would be able to place these, run the model railway around the top, and then have the storage for rolling stock and other items and modelling equipment and what have you, and it will just make it really, really flexible. Now on top of this, I'm probably going to end up putting XPS as a base, because it's very, very cheap here, and also will act as an insulator for sound, so it won't be quite as noisy. So I'll probably put a layer of XPS over the top of the whole of it and have these just as the base, and then I'll be able to drill through and run the electrics underneath the bottom of these and along these, and then, as I say, have books and other storage and stuff in there. So that is a very long ramble, which is longer than I expected, but does explain the full basis behind the idea. And what I'm going to do now, almost dropped it, this is some survey marking, which I bought and I've never used. I bought it for something outside, I think for doing the fence, and then we didn't actually need it, so I've had this for years. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work out roughly where I want to have this hole drilled through. Because the issue I've got is this room, you can see that the walls have been stripped and they're bare. What you can't see is a big plastic sheet just here, dust sheets everywhere. This is a building site right now. And in the next week to 10 days, we are going to start plastering in here. And I'm going to need to have that drilled through and knocked through before we finish off, so that it doesn't cause huge destruction if I do it later than that. So I'm going to look at this, going to work out where I'm going to drill it, and then I'm going to spray so that when Bakir comes in, he knows where to start drilling. So there we are. This officially marks the start of the model railway. My decision, what you can see here is that I've gone for about 20-25 centimetres above this base. If I'm going to put 5 centimetre thick insulation on top, then that means that I can have a rise up to that, which will be quite nice, having it going behind and gives me a little bit of scope for actually, you know what, that's just wrong. Let's start that again. Right, so what you can see is I've started to spray an 8 shape on the wall. This is about 20-25 centimetres above the top of the unit here, and that means that I would need to raise. If I'm having 5 to 10 centimetres of insulation, then it's quite a long way up above where the basic ground level is going to be. I might have gone a little bit too high there, I think. What I think I might do is pull it down, and I'm wondering whether I'm going a little bit overboard, but I could even have 2 layers. So if I have it knocked through as a slot like this, then I can have a ground level here, and then with some clearance I could maybe even take one through at a second height, but I'm not sure. The thing to bear in mind is that I can always block this off. I'm going to be having plasterboard on this wall, and I'll be boarding off the other side so that there's not a big draft going through, and I can always finish it off in a different way with whatever material I wish. But yeah, I'm making some progress. I'm going to keep staring at it and do a little bit more spraying, and I'll bring you back when I've absolutely finalised it. Now we're really near the end, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the rim with neutral grey, just to finish off that before the final touches. And now the final touches. As you can see, I've got a pillow on the left, I've got my clear sealant, and I've also got the 99% alcohol. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the sealant just to add a few last bits of the water effect, and use the hollow fill from in the pillow to add some spray and froth. So that's what I'm about to do. And here is the final miniature. Just doing a bit of a manual rotate for you. Really pleased with how this has come out. It's going to look great on the table and also going to look really nice on my shelf. So yeah, there it is. As you can see, I've finally got these shapes all stuck in. These two are the two ships we haven't yet done. And what I'm going to be doing now is the technique that I did on the Watcher diorama during its doorway, using toilet roll and watered down PVA, which I got from Marklin from Sweden, who is one of my favourite YouTubers, and I will try to remember to link somewhere up the top of the screen, wherever, when I put this out, but I might forget. But either way, he's awesome. If you search for if you search for toilet paper water, you'll find it. So the way that it works is that you paint your PVA on your surface, and I've got a good base here because I picked the correct type of foam not XPS, white foam, but it's not quite choppy enough for me really. So what you do is you paint this on. You don't have to paint it all the way over. I'll do a little section, then I'll get the rest of it done off camera. So you paint on your PVA. Let's do this bottom corner, shall we? Unfortunately, the water-based paint underneath it is getting reactivated. So anyway, then what you do is you get your sheets of toilet paper, and because this is so small, I'm actually going to do this in small sections, because otherwise it's going to go over the top of the ship shapes. Ship shape, yay, there's a pun. So in this case, I'm going to be tearing it out and folding it a little bit just to get it around the ship shape, because I really don't want it to cover that. So it's going to be a little bit more fiddly than if you don't have that. But then once you've done that, you come in with some more PVA and you paint it over the top. And that's it. And you build that level up and up and up until you're happy and you're ready to move on to the next step. So what I'll do is I will build up this layer, and then I will bring you back in for when I'm about to do the next step. But basically what you're trying to do is obliterate all signs this was ever toilet paper. So get rid of the joins, get rid of any bits of things that looks like paper, and just smudge it around a lot and keep layering it up. So I will do that, and I will bring you back in for the next step when I get to it, which won't take me very long. But yeah, I like this technique. I'm having so much fun that I almost forgot to bring you back in then. So what I'm doing is I'm working on the wakes of the ships. So let me show you how I'm going about that with the sloop. So first of all, what we do is we put a little bit more of the toilet paper just around the back of the sloop where we want to have the wake, because the sloop is moving in this direction, moving away. You can see where the front of it is towards the S. So then what you do is you get your glue and you wet the paper down as you have done for the waves, and again you're trying to obliterate the edges, so make sure that when you're doing this it doesn't look like there's a sheet of toilet paper there, it just looks like continuous waves. So once you've got that nice and moistened, what I'm doing is I'm coming in with the brush and my finger just to make two kind of like ridges running away from the stern of the ship, like that. And that's it, we have a wake. So I've already done that on a couple of the other ships on the brig, and whatever that one is, the one that's still being painted down below. So yeah, so I've done a bit of, I've already done a couple of them. I'm going to finish the rest off, and then I'm going to let it to dry before I paint it. Now, one thing to say here is I'm going to leave this for at least a couple of days to dry, because it does take a little bit, because there's quite a lot of liquid on there, unless of course I do light the fire tomorrow, in which case it might dry quite quickly. But yes, I'm quite pleased with how that's looking now. I've been staring at this for a little while, trying to think about what I'm going to base it, because I didn't want to start priming and painting until I had that worked out. My initial idea, and one which isn't going to work, was actually to put it and build it inside the actual box. That's not the box. That's the box. Inside the box it came with. But the issue is that it doesn't fit. So there's always the hand popping out the front, which means I wouldn't be able to fit it inside this, which kind of defeats the object. I had a second idea, which I really quite liked actually, but I've rejected. Spoilers. And this is dog food lid. And the idea was that I can set this upright like that, and potentially sit it onto a base like so, and have him up here, and have the little kind of marionette down the bottom, and that would be quite cool. And I like that actually quite a lot. But the problem with that is this is going to get in the way of seeing the back of the miniature, and I'm looking forward to painting this, and I want it to be really, really nice. So I've rejected that idea as well. What I'm going to do is actually scratch build some stuff out of wood for a base. So that's going to free me up to start painting this, because I will pin to the bottom of the foot, and then I'll be able to paint and get it all done, because I don't have to worry about fitting it into a base and potentially painting the base as well, because I will just pin it to the base, and I will make a little kind of so a stage, and then the platform for the puppeteer to stand on, and I'm going to make that out of wood. I had so much fun with the Battle Games of Middle Earth build, where I was doing the mine workings, and I had to make a crane, that I wanted to play around with that technique a little bit more, and I think this is going to be a really good way of doing it. So I'm going to crack on with painting the miniatures, and then alongside that I will start to put together the base, and I'll bring you along for both of those. But I just thought I should take you through that thought process. It's time to make a start on the dioramic base for this amazing sculpt. And what I've decided to do is, certainly at first at least, see whether I can get away without having to pin the model to anything. If I can just hold it by his foot, then all I need to do is, when I'm done painting everything else, is paint his foot. So I'm going to try and do it that way. That's to the side. I'll go down after I've worked a bit up here and prime him, but I won't film that because it's just me priming him. So anyway, the idea for this is to have a platform which will have the marionette on, and then have at the back of the platform a ladder or some steps up, and then the marionette, the puppeteer, to be stood on a higher platform. And I'm not going to put a back on it, I'm going to have it as a squarish platform, which will have the marionette towards the front, the puppeteer will be roughly central, and then there'll be an area at the back for other things which I might put in as I go. So the idea will be to make use of long matchsticks like I have here, to put across on those long matchsticks the coffee stirrers, and I also have a whole bunch of tongue depressors as well, should I decide to go for a slightly wider planks. But I think that coffee stirrers is where I'm going to go on that one, so we'll put that one back. I'm not going to talk my way through this as such. I'll leave the camera running and then interject with a voiceover if there's something I want to explain. But simple as I'll build a framework and the platform probably just at the base today, so I'll work out some dimensions, cut and glue everything, and then leave it to set, and then come back to build the second platform, which he'll be standing on tomorrow when it's dry. And that's the idea at the moment. But yeah, we're looking forward to this. I'll pop some music on, you can watch, and as I say, I'll be back to interject if there's anything that I want to add. I've made some progress on this. I've had just a couple of minutes in total through the day, and in that time I've put a cross piece across the bottom just to give it a little bit more structural integrity. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work on legs, because I want to have this stood up a little bit off the base, so off the floor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this dowel, which I've got balsa dowel. I'm going to cut maybe 1 centimetre or so, 4 centimetres, so my hands are getting in the way of the shot, 4 centimetres, and I'm going to stick 1 centimetre each just in the corner, just so I can lift it up. Because what I'll probably end up doing is having something along the front, maybe some like drapery or whatever, just to make it look a little bit more fancy. So I'm going to get that done and glued in place. I'm just very busy at work at the moment, so getting time to work on anything is tough. Next thing to do once that's drying is I'm going to start working on the actual base, which the puppeteer will be stood on, because obviously this is the main decking of the stage, and we're going to have a raised area sitting on top, which will have the puppeteer on top of. So that'll be the next thing to do, but I don't know how much time I'm going to have now. I'll get as much done as I can. I'll bring you along for all of it. I am completely undecided at the moment about how tall I'm going to make this platform for the actual puppeteer. So what I'm going to do is work on a ladder, because a ladder is going to inform me on how tall I can make it. And I'm probably going to make it as tall as possible. So if I can make the ladder, then that will mean that I can offer that up against something at an angle, and then I'll be able to decide how tall to actually make the platform. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the heads off 2 more long matches, as you can see, and then the width that I'm going to go for is 3 centimetres, so I can place those on my cutting mat. I can see the lines even if they are quite badly distorted. And then what I'm doing is I'm taking the remains of the stirrers, coffee stirrers that I cut off when I was making the cross pieces for the actual platform, and I'll cut them to 3 centimetres, and then I'll split them in half, because I want them to be a little bit more delicate than the whole width of a coffee stirrer. So if I come in here, where you can see, and just show you how I'm doing that, and then I'll get the rest of it done. So we take that at our 3 centimetre mark, split it, pa-choing, and then we will split it down the middle, which is quite simple for these, because you're following the line of the wood. So that's how that works. So I'm going to get a load of those done and then glue them in place. I'm looking at that now, wondering if I might not do it 2 centimetres, but it might be a bit too kind of like narrow compared to the uprights. I'm going to have a play around with that, and I'll bring it back and show you what it looks like when it is done. So what I did is I split the long matchstick into 4 in quarters just to get the kind of spindly look that I was looking for, and I'm really pleased with that. Just a bit of super glue, some split coffee stirrers split in half. It's 2 centimetres, and I think that looks a lot better than it would have done at 3 centimetres and with the full size of the matchstick. Also, the base, the bottom of this has now got its little legs on. So there's just a couple of little things I'm going to do now. First of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be putting some reinforcement across. So probably what I'm going to do is measure to the centre of each and glue that in just as an extra bar, just to hold those a little bit more solidly. So I'll do that, and then once I've done that, I'll bring you back and we'll have a look and see just how tall this platform on top is going to be. It's going to be pretty tall, as you can see. So this is my matchstick, which is 9 centimetres or so, there and thereabouts. And you can see that it's pretty much going to be all of that. That's going to be it's going to be the height it's going to be at. So yeah, I'll get the reinforcements cut and glued in place, and then bring you back for looking at the raised platform area. Okay, so I've got the supports around the edges of the platform done, and what I'm going to do now is start to work on the platform, on the tall platform. So the idea I've come up with is that I will probably put the floor of the platform a centimetre below the top, just so that there can be a little railing around the back, and the two sides, or the one side that doesn't have the ladder, just to make it look a little bit more interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in my matchsticks with no match end on, and the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to glue them in a, so these are the sides, so I'm going to make the two sides separately and then glue them together. So I'm going to put this a zigzag pattern to add a bit of a strength and rigidity and also make it look nice. Let that dry, and then I'll join these two together and work out how I'm going to actually do the platform of the floor of the top platform. But I'll probably end up using these offcuts of the coffee stirrers that I've got left over. As you can see, I try to make use of all of my odds and sods. So I'll be using super glue again to glue these in. So let me see whether I can do this on camera. I'm aware that I've not put very much of this yet onto camera, mainly because it's a bit fiddly and it's a bit difficult to do it and talk and keep in shot and worry about all those other things at the same time as trying not to screw up the actual making. So if we push that there, push that there, push that up, you can see why I'm not filming this very much, because that's very, very difficult to do. And sometimes there's swearing. So that's one done. I'm going to do the rest off camera where I can swear safely, and I'll bring you along for the next step shortly. It's funny, you'd sometimes think that maybe you are your own worst critic. Obviously didn't film very much of the earlier painting, and I've just had a lovely comment on my channel saying, yeah, basically film more. So I'm going to. I'm up really early again. It's about just after 5 o'clock. I'm going to be able to get a couple of hours painting in, and so what I'm going to try and do is get through the final two miniatures from Sabre and Blood, and then maybe I'll try and paint something else as well, but I'm going to focus on these two. So first off is the one I thought I would paint first, which is Jerzy Oriloko, I think. My pronunciation is probably terrible. He's the drunk dude, the guy with the big kind of like wine what's it on there. So I will maybe do some voiceovers, maybe speak a little bit, but mainly I'm just going to leave the camera running, and whatever I decide to edit in was what you'll see, but I'll basically capture the whole process, so we'll see exactly how long it takes. So yeah, hopefully you will enjoy what you see, and hopefully I will get a good enough result to make it worthy to show. Well, there you are. That was 20 minutes, near enough on the button, including hunting time in my badly organised paint collection. I really do need to get that sorted out. So I've not done the washes yet. I will let that to dry now and do the next one. But yeah, that's how I go about doing it. It's not all that hard, actually, I don't think, anyway. I use Vallejo, and Vallejo's paints are generally very nicely named, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit. They're very nicely named so that you can not worry too much about whether you're doing the right paint job or not, basically. I use red leather and for the red leather, red leather for the leather. So yeah, that's how I go about it. I hope that was useful and interesting. I'm quite pleased with how he's turned out. I'm now going to pick up the next dude, who is going to be Nacho, or Laboda, who is a pretty cool looking dude with a bit of a green shirt, some gold, a little bit of his cloth is going to be done in a canvas or something like that. Maybe even a dark purple shirt. Awesome. Right, okay, so I'm going to get this dude done. I'll run the camera again in the same way so that you can see. I'll just get myself set up, have a cup of tea, you can watch this next one as well. Cheers. And there we are, it's another about 20 minutes or so. That seems to be about my time. I'm pretty pleased with that. Sorry to lose the focus then. He's come out okay. I had quite a bit of trouble trying to pick the colours. I'm not totally happy with the colour of his trousers. I might darken that up a little bit. But apart from that, I'm pretty pleased. Pretty pleased indeed. It looks quite nice. So yeah. As I said before, I'm not the greatest painter, but just do it. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? And if you see you've missed something, you just come along, you touch it up. Like I've missed a little bit of his coat there, or maybe I washed it off a little bit applying something else. There is no, just do it at the end of the day. What's the worst that can happen? I'm pretty pleased with that. I will now let he to dry, and I'm going to put the washes on this dude. So I will just get myself set and I'll bring you along for that as well. Well, there you are. That was probably about 25 minutes total per miniature, and I'm pretty happy with how they look. Obviously, they're not going to win any prizes, but they're certainly going to look good enough on the tabletop, and they give the impression of what I want to do. And that means that I have actually now finished all 6 of the miniatures for Blood and Plunder, which is absolutely awesome. So, and I'm really, really pleased with them. I have a little bit of touching up to do on one of them because I had to put the arms on the wrong way around. So I'm just going to get that done now, and then I'll try and get some glamour shots of all of them together. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed watching the slightly more detailed painting there of these two. It's not something that I think I'll do all that often unless you ask me for it a lot, in which case I will, because yeah, it doesn't actually change anything about how I do it. I just feel a bit self-conscious. But yeah, I hope that you've enjoyed watching those two at least. And yeah, I'm relatively happy with how they've come out. At the end of the day, you just got to give it a go, haven't you? I have just looked at my colour wheel and decided that the third colour is going to be green. So I've got my green Vallejo wash, and I'm going to now apply that green wash to the third summoned creature, whatever they are. So hopefully this will work. I'm not going to film it because I'm not able to. I'm going to start that one again. So I've just looked at the colour wheel and decided that I'm going to do this third one here in green. Now you can see that I've started that already. I'm not going to film it because I need to get this close to my face to do it right. But yes, I'll bring you back at the end to show what it looks like. There we are. That's looking quite nice now. Let me get a little bit better light on the subject. Quite pleased with how that's coming out. It's a very, very basic technique at this stage. I'm going to look at doing a little bit more to this over the coming days. But yeah, probably just highlights, pick out some details like eyes and mouth. But yeah, pretty pleased with how that's coming out so far. So I'm going to leave that alone and not fiddle with it, and come back to it when I've got a bit more of an idea. This is going to be a short clip because there's only a small amount to do, but let me quickly show you what I want to do. What I want to do is I want to put the supports on for this. Now I'm going to put them on the outside, and my plan is to have them overlapping, so when they're on, they're overlapping the edges, and then they'll butt up when it joins up to a square. That's my plan. So what I'm going to do is measure that. I'm going to do it about 1 centimetre, as I think I said already, about 1 centimetre below the level. And that's another good thing about this kind of tray. Not only does it mean that if any super glue leaks or drips, it's not actually going to cause a big problem, whereas if I was sat on the cutting mat and the super glue dropped down, then it'll be stuck to the mat and then everything will break and you'd lose what you're making. But also it does also have that nice grid that gives it a little bit more, makes it a little easier to measure and place things and position things. So we will cut that very simply, put a little dab of super glue in the point I want it to go, if I can get the super glue open. There it is. So a little dab of super glue there, and there, I say little dab, a huge blob, and then drop that in place. And I'll do that for both of them. And then that will go off very quickly, as I say. That's why I'm doing the super glue on these projects. Can always add some wood glue if I want to make sure that it's bound. And then when that's done, I will then be able to mount these and join them at the top. And I'll also put some diagonal supports in, and then it will look really, really nice. So let's do the other one, and then when that goes off, I will bring you back for the next step. As soon as it's ready, it's going to be pushing towards getting this done and getting the model painted. I want to get this project finished and pick up another one. There we are. So we'll cut that off. Little blobs of super glue again. One there. And then drop the matchstick in place. There we are. Right, I'll let that go off and I'll bring you back very shortly for the next step. Now we come to a really fiddly bit, which could be a lot of fun if I can get this done right. So what I'm going to try to do is glue this upright to the edge of this big long matchstick, but also so that it's touching, which you can't see because where my hand is, but so that it's resting on top of the one that's going there. So looking at it, that's going to be okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to just put a bit of super glue just down in that corner there. There we are. And then we're going to rest that on there and let it go off. You'll notice that I have the other 90 degrees. Make sure I get that up right. There we are. Cool. The reason I've got this one here is just to balance the base, because the weight of this metal thing is too great and it was kind of tipping up. So I've put the other one there just as a counterweight. So we will, hopefully that will stick. I will sit here now and hold it for a minute or so. I'm going to let that go off, and then I'll get the other side done, and then I'll be able to join this to the other upright. So yeah, we're making some progress here. Now this is fiddly. So I've taken the cross piece off, having glued it in here before. I took it off because it was a little bit fiddly for me to do this next step. This next step is joining these two together, and that is where the join is. So I need to drop my super glue in on there and then run away and don't breathe because that is going to glue there. And then when that's done, I should better drop this in and glue that one in much easier, and then I can do the zigzags. But yeah, as you can see, a lot of straight edges and squares trying to prop it up, and now I just need to let that go off for another couple of minutes, and then I can do the final step, and then I can start to reinforce it with the cross pieces, which will make it a lot easier. I'm really actually very, very pleased with how this looks. I'm going to be able to continue the motif of the arrows, so there, and then that'll be really strong. So anyway, let that go off. I'll bring you back for the next step. This is a lot of fun. All right then, the moment of truth. So what we'll do is we'll drop a little bit of super glue here, and a little bit of super glue here. There's a lot of super glue there that will drizzle down and glue me to the base, to the bench, and then we'll drop that in, and hopefully with a little bit of encouragement, but not too much. There we are. That will now sit in nicely. So the next thing that we're going to do, and I'm going to do this now, is we're going to put the super glue in for our little arrows. There we are. And that will then assist this whole process of making it rigid, if I could even get it to sit in. So that can go like that. That can go there and go, oh dearie me, don't do that. See, I am clumsy, very, very clumsy, which is why I'm always nervous of this kind of thing. But the problem is I'm enjoying it so much, I'm probably going to keep doing builds like this. Because this has been a blast again. There we are, so now we've got that in. So I'll let that side go off, make sure I'm not gluing it to the bench, I'm not. I'll let that side go off, turn it over, and then put the other arrow on, and then we'll have quite a strong, I can potentially put another set around here, just at the top of where the arrows are, to give it a bit more of a rigidity. But yeah, pretty pleased with that. That's nearly ready for me putting the planks across the top, and then I can't put off painting the miniature for any more time. So this has sat untouched for a couple of days because I've been so busy at work that I didn't actually get any hobby time yesterday. However, I'm back to it now, and we're going to do the next step. So the next step is, as I said at the end of the last clip, to put the top on this, on the tower. You can see I've roughly positioned it at kind of a little bit of an angle just to make it a bit interesting. I'm not sure if that's how it's going to go or not. Nothing's glued down yet. Take the little step ladder and take that off and put the platform to one side. So my idea was initially to use the coffee stirrers to settle across the top like that. And I've changed my mind on that mainly because I want it to actually be kind of like sitting on all four edges, and carving that out is they're not going to be all that stable. So what I've decided to do is use some of my scrap balsa wood to do this. As it happened, I had a piece in that was exactly the right dimensions that way. So all I need to do here is make a mark so that I can trim it down so that it's square. So we'll do that with a little pencil here. Okay, I do not have my ruler to hand. I will go and grab that now. I have my ruler, apologies. So I've marked that. We'll go around and mark the other side just to make sure that it's actually completely accurate. And then what we'll do is we'll cut that out carefully using an X-Acto blade. And in this case I'm cutting with the grain, so I need to be really careful to not try to cut it too fast. Remember, multiple strokes. There we are. So the next thing is going to be for me to turn this upside down and try to mark out the inside corner of each of the uprights. There we are. So now what I can do is cut that square out of each corner. And then that will fit on nicely there, and then I'll be able to basically paint it and it will look great. So that's hopefully going to work. I will use my safety ruler again and my sharp knife and very, very, very carefully cut these corners out. I'll get the rest of that done. I'll be very repetitive. Glue it in place with probably with super glue again, and I'll bring you back for the next step when I get to it. Well, a little bit of shaky cam for you. First of all, I've been shopping and I've bought myself some new mixing things for my resin, so I'll be able to mix a lot more at once and pour a lot larger quantities. I've also got some spatulas there, so I should be able to waste less. The second thing to show you, I'll just do a quick pan. I was going to do a pour, but I realised that there was a little bit more dressing that I wanted to do. So first of all, you can see that I've stuck a fish here. I'm just using super glue on top of the resin and I've propped it up. I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. I've also added in one of the mermaids over here, which is going to look really good there. I'll just move around to the side. So on this side I've added another fish down here which it's struggling to focus on. There we are. And finally, as I pan over and look for it in the viewfinder, there's one here. There it is. There's one there. So I've added 3 fish at this layer. And then finally, on this update, I've added the sticks, the drowned whatever of the sticks. She's sat in there, tucked in there, and that's exactly where I wanted to go. So I'm very pleased about that. So this means I'm not going to pour some resin right away. However, I will hopefully pour some resin a bit later on. All that stuff should go off. And if it's not tonight, that'll be first thing tomorrow, and I'll do a large resin pour with my new mixing stuff. And yeah, I'm really quite excited. I've just not had time this week to even look at this. I've been thinking about it a lot, and I've finally got a little bit of time. So yeah, hopefully we'll get a big resin pour in either later on today or tomorrow. Time has come to start to stain these, and I'm going to be staining them using my wood stain. And I've gone for the mahogany, so I'm going to paint that on. I'll probably do a couple of coats. This obviously will then end up being weathered as well and treated, so that it's not all just nice and new. But I think mahogany is quite a nice, if this is a theatre, this used to be quite a good theatre. It had mahogany planking. Obviously, now that the puppeteer is here, it's clearly gone down in the world. So yeah, so I'm just going to stain everything with this mahogany, and then leave that to dry, and then I'll come back to it. Maybe do another couple of coats, as I say. But yeah, nice simple technique, which I've seen a few more people doing recently actually. I'm not going to pretend that I came up with it in the slightest, but it is nice to see that it's not just me who uses wood stains on his hobby builds. Right, I'll get the rest of this done and I'll bring you back for the next stage when I get to it. As I push forwards with my lake build, very slowly of course, but as I am, I picked this up quite a little while ago, and decided that this was going to go on and be part of that build. And I think it's going to be relatively simple to make, famous last words. So I thought I'd try and get this done. I'm feeling quite uninspired by some of the projects I'm working on at the moment, and so I think this might kick me back into gear. So fingers crossed. So let's get this open. So we've got some things dropped out, but let's have a look and see what the instructions are like. There's actually quite a lot of instructions. I was thinking this might be quite quick. It looks like it's actually going to be able to sit flush with the water, which is good because I was thinking about having this sat on top of the lake, being able to come into the little harbour, little pier. So yeah, so it looks like we've got quite a few instructions to go through. You create the keel upside down, yeah, and then put the deck on, and then shape the hull panels around, and then put the command deck on, and then build the masts. So yeah, there's a lot of pictures, but it's just nice and clear rather than it being massively complicated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit and look at this just for a few minutes, work it out, and then get started on assembling it, and I'll bring you along for that. I really enjoy these. I'm looking forward to this quite a lot. So let's get stuck in. Hold the boat keel, which is A, upside down. Glue and place the hull ribs, which is all of these, B. Note the middle rib, C, is different. So that's interesting. So I'll have to have a quick look to find out which one C is. And then it says the diagrams, and then glue the base panel D, which is this, to the keel only. So there we are. Turn the assembly over and place on a flat surface. Use a 90-degree piece of scrap to help position. So what we're looking at doing is ending up with this keel sitting on top of this here, and with the ribs in, and then I need to make sure that it's all 90 degrees and smart. So what I'm going to do is cut everything out and then start to get gluing things together. So I'll pop some music on and we'll get this done. That was a lot fiddlier than I expected it to be, but we got there. So the first thing we're going to do is we actually did identify C, which is the middle one, which I believe goes in the middle there, potentially. So that has a little kind of cutout just at the edge there. You can see that's how it's different from all the others. So what we're going to do is I have my PVA, just gather all these bits together. I have my PVA here, I have a plate to put some PVA onto, probably too much but I can always put it back, and I have a old paintbrush, and that's what I generally use for this. So what we're going to do is going to come along and we're just going to drop PVA inside each of the grooves into which the ribs sit. As simple as this. There's nothing magical about this technique. Okay, that's done. And then with that done, we can come along and we can find which bits go where. So the first one that goes in is that one, which is the narrow tool one. And that needs to click in clearly. And then we have the other end that goes here, and they are all the same. So yeah, I will now go along and fit all these ribs. So again, I'll either skip ahead or put some music on or something. There we are. So that was easy enough. The only fiddly bit was that central bit where they're quite close together and my fat fingers are just too fat to deal with it. So with that done, what we do, I believe, is we sit this now and it should slot in to those grooves, and all you're doing, it says, is glue the base panel D to the keel only, so not to the ribs. So the ribs need to remain a little bit flexible, it seems. So what we're going to do that is we're going to come along here and we're just going to add our PVA basically to these little tabs that stick down, because that's going to be the best way for us to make sure that we're not accidentally gluing the ribs. So we'll do the one side, very carefully turn it over and do the other side. Okay, and I don't know that it's the difference. Well, that's got 2 and that's got 3 to the front. So I don't know whether this is, yeah, don't know whether it's different or not. This could end up being wrong. But yeah, we'll just get that in there. There we are. Cool. Right, so I'm going to set that somewhere to dry, and I'll be back in a second for the next step. I'm going to do the I'm going to assemble the mast next. I'm going to get that done right now. So I'll set this somewhere to dry and I'm back in a second. So we're jumping ahead a bit here to the mast. However, I think I can assemble it separately, and that will save me a little bit of time. I've got a little bit of time now, and then I need to wrap up my hobby in this evening. I'm not going to film cutting all these out because that was really dull the last time, took ages. But basically we're going to be cutting out everything that's in this part of the sprue, because this here is the command deck, which I might also stick together now, because then it's very much, no, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave the command deck. So yes, I'm going to cut out the everything for the mast, and then I'll bring it back when I come to assembly. So all that's cut out, and now I've been looking at the instructions a little bit, at the destructions, and it's a little bit confusing. So the first thing to do is not confusing, and it says to glue these 2 little panels together. So we're just going to put double glue in there and set them on top of each other like that. So that's the first thing it says. This is the 2 center alignment panels. Glue them together. So there we are. Next it says glue the center alignment block and upper block Q into the base mast panel R, which is a bit confusing because Yeah, it doesn't look quite the same as it does on the diagram. Basically, on the diagram, we don't have this little notch at the bottom. If we have a look, if I bring that to the camera, what you can see is that you have a square bottom, and then the longer ones, S and T, the master panel over the blocks and onto panel R. They don't have that little knock at the bottom, which is a bit strange. So I'm a little bit confused here, because let me show you what I think. What I think it's saying you should do is glue that into there first, and then what it's saying is that this should come down over the top, but it doesn't really make much sense to me how that's working out. So what I'm going to do is have another quick play around with this. This definitely needs to glue together, so I'm going to read the instructions a bit more and try to work out what's going on, because yeah, it doesn't actually match what I think it should do. So yeah, I'll be back in a sec. Okay, I've had a bit of a fettle and I think I've worked it out. And I've worked it out by use of part Q, which is the upper block. So what you can see here is that the upper block fits in and slots through, and if we offer that here up and push that into place there, oops, then you can see that that's going to sit like this, which I think is what it should be doing. And I think then what that probably tells me that this lower block should probably also do this, slide in and sit right in. And that fits a lot better with what I think it looks like it should do than what the instructions seem to suggest. So I'm going to do that gluing now. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a couple of things. First of all, we're going to put some glue, not that much, way too much. Put some glue there, and also put it into the holes that we're going to use. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come along with this upper one and position that, and that's going to give us our first position. So that should slot in all and go all the way through. There we are, that's better. There we are, cool. So that's how it goes. So let me just explain what I did. I'll probably sped all that up. This has a tall end and a short end on its tabs. You want the short end at the bottom and the tall end at the top. That will help you to position it correctly, and that now is slotted right through. So what we're going to do now is we're going to glue this panel on and slot both of the, so glue this to this, and then finally this panel can get glued on the other side as well. That was a little bit fiddly, and the instructions on this bit are not very accurate. It looks like they maybe have updated the kit and not updated their instructions, which is something that they do sometimes, I've found, Sarissa. And then last but not least, we have these little bits here which get glued on around the sides, around here. So we'll get them in, and then what I'll do is I will clamp it with my clamps, as I like to do, and then that'll be me, I think, on this kit for the while. I'll come back to that maybe tomorrow. Quite looking forward to seeing it built and then painting it. There we are. Wow, that was far more difficult than I expected it to be. I'm going to clamp that now and leave it. I'm not going to do the spar. I'll work that out when I come to put that actually onto the body of the ship, onto the hull. But yeah, we'll just put lots of clamps on, as I like to do, and that will mean that it's definitely going to dry nice and securely. So yeah, there we are. That was fun. Glad I started that. Harder than I expected it to be when I first picked it up, but they often are, aren't they, these kits? But I've managed it, so there we are, look at that. Brilliant. Right, let's get that done, and I'll be back to that probably tomorrow. Well, there's another one edited and in the bag. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Quite a varied week, even though I was so busy I did manage to get more time than I thought, but that's often the case. I wonder how many of these vlogs have started with me saying, oh, I didn't do much this week, and then ended with me going, wow, I got a lot done. But yeah, that's how it goes. I have had a crazy week at work and I haven't done as much as I planned. But next week is a new week, and next week is the beginning of the second year of BeardClipper. So if you are one of my subscribers, thank you so much. The numbers are out of this world, and the fact that there's so many of you regulars that comment on all my videos really does mean a lot to me, and I really love hearing from you. If you haven't yet commented, please do so. I'd love to. I love it, and maybe you can get into a regular commenting habit, and we can build up a little bit of a discussion going there. That'd be really cool. And if not, if you just enjoy watching, then that's fine as well. But I do love to hear from you. So I'll close out by saying, as I always do, thank you very much for watching. And please, stay safe, stay well, and stay healthy.